Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident fanalist, as always, Ryan Schlip. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_daddy. Well, it's officially game day. I'm officially getting nervous. It's the day before for me, but just saying it's game day and all that, I don't know, man. It just hit me just now. So, look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, folks. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough game. I think if you were to, and I'm not walking back anything I said about, the team having played some pretty easy opponents, but I still believe that if you were being completely honest and asked who is the best team in football, there are options, but I think the Lions would make a lot of sense. They are playing well. Their record is what it is for a reason. Again, good teams, if nothing else, they win. But, also as much as Packers have kind of dominated the last couple weeks, the Lions almost lost to the Bears, but let's not get caught up in the recency bias. The Lions have been eviscerating opponents pretty much all year. And the Bears, I think, have actually been playing really good football and are narrowly losing to some of the best teams in the entire NFL, which, if anything, should scare you more about the Bears than encourage you about how much the Lions suck. But let's just take a quick look real quick at the 11-1 Dan Campbell-led Detroit Lions. Currently number 1 in points, number 2 in yards. Their defense ranks second in points allowed. They, again, 23-20 against the Bears. That's true. The week before was 24-6 against the Colts. If nothing else, that's impressive about their defense. But if you're saying the offense hasn't showed up, let me bring to your attention the Jacksonville Jaguars 3 weeks ago, where they beat the Jaguars 52-6. So it's been something. I think the offense gets all the attention. I think the defense deserves a little bit more attention. 2 games, teams scored 29 points, the Vikings and the Seahawks. Aside from that, so nobody's reached 30 this entire year. Aside from those 2 games at 29, it's been 20, 20, 13, 9, 14, 14, 23, 6, and 6. That is psychotic. Nobody is scoring points against the Detroit Lions. It's just not happening. They're giving up, on average, a little less than 19 points per game at home. On the season, it's a little under 17 points. And again, if we want to correct for opponent, we can. There's a little tool called DVOA. Number 1 team in the NFL, according to DVOA, is Detroit, and it's really not even close. Green Bay ranks 5th, but their DVOA is slightly less than half of what Detroit is. 21.3 for Green Bay. Philly is at 25. Buffalo is at 26. Giant leap up to Baltimore at 35, and then another big leap up to Detroit at 43.2%. So roughly what we're saying is the Detroit Lions are going to be about 43% better than your average team. Their offense does not rank number 1. They rank number 3. 18.2%, just ahead of Green Bay at 17.4%. Buffalo and Baltimore are higher. Defensive DVOA, they have them ranked number 2 behind only Minnesota, and barely. 18.2% compared to 18.8% for Minnesota. It's a good football team. It is what it is. I wish it wasn't. I wish, they just completely sucked, but they don't. To make things even worse, if you look at the historical DVOAs, the best teams in history, the best team via DVOA was the 2007 New England Patriots at 52.3% DVOA total. The Lions right now are sitting at 43.2. That would position them between the 1987 San Francisco 49ers and the 2023 Baltimore Ravens. That would be 7th all-time highest. So it would be 2007 New England, 1991 Washington, 1985 Chicago, 2010 New England, 2023 Baltimore, and then it would be 2024 Detroit. The highest Green Bay ever was 1996 Green Bay, 39.7% DVOA. Now, this is not a perfect thing. I think part of the issue may have to do with opponents. I do think there's a lot of bad football teams this year. So, how do you weight it historically? I don't know. I think maybe the issue with DVOA could be the sort of moving average. Again, I don't know exactly. Let me spend 5 minutes with the robot and see if we can hammer this out. Okay, so that is technically correct. There is a moving average every year. So it's not to completely discredit it, because there probably is a lot of consistency from year to year, I would guess. But to be clear, what we're saying is they're 43% better than your average 2024 team. So if on average teams this year suck more than usual, which I'm not convinced they don't, whatever. But just to give you some context, regardless, in terms of how much more dominant they are than the average team this year, compared to how dominant other teams were in those same years, this is one of the most dominant teams in NFL history. I don't want to have to tell you that. I saw somebody actually sent me this, I think. There was a comparison to them in The Greatest Show on Turf, and I immediately rolled my eyes, and I was like, oh, good Lord, here we go with this nonsense. I don't want to look into it because I don't want to spend that amount of energy just to find out that, yeah, that's actually a decent comparison. I don't want to do that. I don't feel like it. So let's just say it's stupid, and they're probably not. So it's a good team. At the same time, here's the deal. We've been talking about this for a while. The Lions have been playing a lot of bad teams, mostly because that's what the NFL is. There's a handful of really good teams, and then there's just a lot of garbage out there. And the good teams are just kind of floating around, kicking down the bad teams. And so every week it's, are the Vikings going to lose this week? No, they're not, because they're playing somebody stupid. Okay, what about the Lions? Nope, they're playing somebody stupid again. It's rubber meets the road time. And, how impressed am I that they beat the Bears? Not even slightly. The Colts, garbage. The Jaguars, minus Trevor Lawrence, disgusting garbage. The Houston Texans, who have been playing terrible football and consistently threw interceptions back to the Lions every time they got interceptions thrown to them, garbage. The Packers, week 9, were garbage. Tennessee, the week before that, garbage. Minnesota, not garbage, only lost by 2 points. Dallas, garbage. Seattle and Arizona, I don't remember. Tampa Bay, LA, I don't know how good those teams were weeks 1 through 4. I don't know. They have done a great job beating up on teams that are not ready to play football. And so what we need from the Packers is to actually be that team that I'm talking about. Don't be another team that's just a piece of crap. Because if you show up and play like you did last time, then Detroit's not really being challenged. And we just get the crap beat out of us. Be what you were the last 2 weeks. Just be a competent team. Right? I'm not asking for anything superhuman. Let's protect the football. Let's minimize the mistakes. Let's throw accurate passes. Let's catch the balls that come to us and not lead the entire NFL in drops. If you can do that, then we've got a real football game. I'm not saying if you do that, you win. I'm saying if you do that, we have a real football game and a very real chance to win the game. If you look back, the offense for the Detroit Lions has obviously been very, very impressive. 400 yards, 390 yards, 645 yards, 345. The week before that, 261. That was the Packers. Not even playing very well. It was the second lowest amount of offensive production for Detroit the entire season. Third lowest amount of rush yards that the Detroit Lions got all year. Second lowest pass yards the entire year. In fact, it was the fourth lowest amount of points the entire year. This is a very doable task. This is a beatable team. It is. I think the Lions excel at being very disciplined and very good. I'm not of the opinion that this is the most elite team in football. I see them more like the Patriots over the years, and that's certainly not a negative for maybe the most successful franchise in sports history over that period of time, 10, 20 years, whatever, 20 years, I think. But I see them more as that. This isn't this unstoppable force. If you can play good defense, you can slow them down. The Packers already did it. If you can play good offense, you can score points against them. But you have to play clean football, and you have to be a good football team to do it. You know, I mean, there are times you go up against a team like we've seen with the 49ers at times. We've seen it with Tampa, where their defense is so good, it doesn't matter. You can play as clean as you want, and you can be as good as you want. It is a freaking dogfight, and you're probably still not going to be able to do anything. That's not Detroit. It's not easy because you need 4 quarters of clean football play, and you have to be certainly above average. I would say good, but I think if you can put 4 good quarters together, I do think you beat the Lions. And understand, this isn't true for everybody. This isn't true for the New York Giants, but it is true for the Packers. It is true for the team that is a top 5 offense via most categories. It is true for the team that hung 68 points the last 2 weeks. And by the way, the defense that since the bye week, week 10, has not allowed 20 points in a game. 19 to Chicago, 10 to the 49ers, 17 to Miami. And Miami, by the way, has been hanging 30 on everybody basically since Tua came back. They only got 17 against this Packers defense. And Miami, by the way, also their defense, they allowed 15, 19, 15. What did the Packers do? 30. The last team to do that, Buffalo. Hilariously, Buffalo did almost the same thing to the 49ers. In other words, Packers are kind of playing like Buffalo, which is funny because who is Detroit playing, I believe, in 2 weeks? It's Buffalo. And I genuinely feel confident, I would say more confident that Buffalo will beat Detroit than I do that Green Bay will. And I don't know why, because I think Green Bay and Buffalo are very similar teams right now. And the reason I feel confident in Buffalo is because, again, it's not that Detroit isn't talented. But I think if you get a really good football team, then you just pin them up against Detroit. I think they'll beat them. If they can play their brand of football and they can do it for 4 quarters, which is easier said than done, I do think Detroit is beatable. And look, I've said this before. You go back and look at Detroit, and obviously a lot of the reason they rank so highly, whether it's overall points or DVOA or whatever the point, the situation may be, what we're really looking at is point differential, right? It's, DVOA is looking at not only did you beat them, but how much you beat them. So there's an expected, you're expected to do this. How much more did you do? Detroit is that team, like I've said before, very much like Buffalo, very much like Detroit, Dallas in the past. They are a team that when they get in a groove against a really bad team, they just go over and over and over and over and over. And so you get a ton of huge games. They had Seattle's number. What did they do? They put up 42 points. They had Dallas's number. They put up 47. They had Tennessee's number. They put up 52. They had Jacksonville's number. They put up 52. These are massive games. Okay, but here's the thing. They're not playing those teams this week. So it's a different calculus. It's a different calculus of how you play against actual tough opponents. They don't blow out tough opponents. Again, Minnesota was a 2-point win. Green Bay was a 10-point win. Green Bay didn't even play very well. The Texans, 3-point win. Texans played like garbage. It was a 3-point win. So, this is not... I guess what I'm saying is some of the metrics are a little bit skewed because teams like Detroit will so obliterate bad teams. I don't know what it is about certain teams and the way that they play. It's kind of like when you play in Madden and you just got this play that you can run over and over and they don't know how to stop it, so you just keep spamming that play and you just run up the score. It's kind of like that. They just have the other defensive coordinator up against the ropes. They know exactly what they're going to do. They just got it pegged. They got it figured out, and they're just going to keep scoring and scoring and scoring and scoring and scoring and scoring and scoring. Great. But that's not what we're talking about in this game. We're talking about something different. We're talking about how Detroit is going to play against teams that'll actually punch them back in the mouth. Doesn't mean that the other team automatically wins, but it just means we're talking about something else. And all that 52-6, 52-14, 47-9, 42-29, all that stuff kind of goes out the window. And so I absolutely expect this to be a closer game. Likewise, I don't think the Packers are going to be able to do to Detroit what they did to Miami and what they did to the 49ers. I'd be beyond happy if they did, but that's very unlikely to happen. Reality is these are very similar teams. Two teams that have beaten up on bad teams. They've had some close games, and they find ways to win close games. That's why they have good records. But this is the Packers' chance to really demonstrate that the Green Bay Packers of Week 9, of Week 4, of Week 1 are a thing of the past. And I don't give a crap what the record is. We are the kings of the North. And that's how it was last year. Last year, by the end of the year, the Packers were the best team in the NFC North. They were better than the Lions. They beat the Lions. And you also had guys like Amon-Ra saying that's the team I don't want to see is the Packers. And for good reason. They were just a better team at that point in the season. That's what this is about right now. Winning the number 1 seed is very unlikely for the Packers. And losing it for Detroit, I mean, you're playing Philly or whatever. Actually, they may. Don't know what Philly's record is, but if you lose to Green Bay, you lose to Buffalo. There's a couple other scary games that you got coming up. They might. But it's more to do with, and this is really what matters to me and to everybody else, what it should matter is how good are the Packers? Yes, it'd be nice to have the number 1 seed, but the bottom line is I'm not worried about not having the number 1 seed if I know that going to Detroit doesn't scare me. Ultimately, what really matters is can you be the best team in the NFC North when it's playoff time? That's what matters. And that's what we're trying to do here today. So it's a very, very unusual season. Usually these games have big implications. This game doesn't have really big implications. Win, lose, or draw, both teams going to the playoffs. Basically guaranteed. Lions are guaranteed. I don't know. They need to win one more game or something stupid. Who cares? They don't need to clinch. They're going to the playoffs, and the Packers, I don't care if they lose. They're going to the playoffs. So it's not about that. And again, it's really not about the number 1 seed because the Packers getting it are so unlikely. This is just, and it's kind of cool because we can just isolate on what matters. We don't have to panic about the postseason. It's just about pride. It's just about the rivalry. It's just about, I hate you. It's about taking the crown. It's about who is the king of the North. And that's all it's about. And that's all it needs to be about. So I'm very excited about it. And I just hope the Packers can keep doing what they've been doing. Why don't we take a break? We'll come back. We'll get a little bit more specific. I want to look at the Detroit Lions roster a little bit. We'll look at the situation. We got some clarity on the injuries. It looks like for both teams, basically, anybody that was questionable or not looking great, not practicing, pretty much didn't play, is not going to play. There really wasn't any surprise, like, oh, it looks like they're going to play. No, not even game time decisions. It's just not, they're all down. So there's really no reason for excuses. Both teams are without some pretty critical pieces. We'll get into that in just a minute. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. All right, so let's go through it. We'll go through the roster piece by piece here. Jared Goff, some people would say having an MVP season. I've already stated I absolutely think that's nonsense. I think the one really good stat Jared Goff has is largely a wide receiver stat. Not that he hasn't been accurate. He's been very accurate. But if you compare completion percentage to adjusted completion percentage, he falls quite a bit. His guys just do not drop passes. 72% completion rate is still ridiculous, though. 79% adjusted completion rate, not as ridiculous. It's a little bit more believable. But 244 of 340, 2,980 yards, 8.8 yards per attempt, 22 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. None of that is necessarily earth-shattering at all. The touchdowns are not super high. The interceptions are not super low. The yards are not super high. The touchdown-to-interception ratio is kind of eh. And his PFF grade is also a little bit eh. It's a 74 passing grade, 76.6 overall grade. It's a little bit more of normal Goff. 2023 Goff was it was actually his best season ever via PFF. This is a little bit more of a standard year. It was kind of how he was in 2022, 2020, 2019, 2017. Standard Goff. I think the way that it's working, and it's working so well, is Jared Goff is, and this is what I said about Jordan, that again is not meant to be offensive, although it's a very offensive term. He's a very good game manager. It's a team that runs through the offensive line, through the run game. They are a powerhouse, down your throat kind of an offense. And then you have Jared Goff just executing efficiently on top of that. You build off of the run. And it's just a matter of, when we call on you, you have to do the right thing, and he generally does. Nothing super fantastic. He has a big-time throw rate of 2.8% and a turnover-worthy play rate of 3.4%. That's actually quite bad, I think, on both accounts. His big-time throw percentage is 34th out of 41 quarterbacks. Well, it's tied for 34th with Tua. But again, it's not about big-time throws. It's just the throw. That's it. Turnover-worthy plays, he ranks 26th. Just slightly better than Jordan Love. But, again, that ratio is not great. Jordan Love has a 3.6% big-time throw rate compared to 2.8 for Jared Goff. So he's not super careful with the ball. He's been very lucky. 13 turnover-worthy plays, just 9 interceptions. Exact same number for Jordan Love with 13 turnover-worthy plays, but he has 11 interceptions. But this is not, I don't even know it's not Josh Allen. I hate to say Pat Mahomes because, I don't know. I mean, he has been playing a lot better lately, and he is graded really highly. I just hate doing it. Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels. I mean, guys that are just making magic happen out there. He's just doing whatever. And again, that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. In fact, that's what Jordan's been doing, and I think the Packers are running a similar offense where we're leaning on the run. We're allowing that to lead the way, and then we just need Jordan to come over the top of that and make the plays that are there. And if he can do kind of like last week where there's a couple like, ooh, that was nice. If you can add a couple of those, a little sprinkle of that in there, all the better. But that's all it is. It's the sprinkles on top of the fudge sundae. All right? It's not the main component. Right now, Jared Goff overall grade is ranked 15th. He's 16th as far as his passing grade is concerned. Very big difference between Jared Goff clean and under pressure. This is going to be a big thing. Our pass rush has improved the last several weeks. They do not have their left tackle in. We'll get to that. We've already kind of talked about it. It's not so much that Taylor Decker is an elite player. It's that he's a good player. But the drop-off, the gap between Decker and their next guy up, that's the issue. And so the point is, it's there for the taking. You got to step up and take it. When kept clean, which has been 67% of his dropbacks, he has completed 78% of his passes, 2,264 yards, 19 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. 3.2% big-time throw rate, 2.7% turnover-worthy play rate. So he's been less lucky with that. 7 turnover-worthy plays, and 6 of them were intercepted. 87 PFF grade, 83 passing grade. Under pressure, 33% of the time. 55% completion rate. 55%. 718 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 51 grade, 50 passing grade. His big-time throw rate drops from 3.2 down to 2 between clean and pressured. His turnover-worthy play rate goes from 2.7 to 4.7. You got to get pressure on Jared Goff. You have to make him uncomfortable. Rashawn Gary has been playing better. Lucas Van Ness has been playing better. Mosby and Brenton Cox have been good additions since losing Preston. We have to get some guys on the inside. We got to have Wyatt step up. Kenny got his first sack of the season. Congratulations. It would be great if he could step up. If not, we could just push him out of the way, whatever you got to do. But, if he's going to be clean in the pocket, you're up against one of the best quarterbacks in football. If he's under pressure all day, he is terrible. And that's true of a lot of quarterbacks, but this is no exception. Looking at their receiving options, obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown is the main focal point here that everybody is fully aware of. As far as overall offensive grade, he is their highest graded of all the, receivers, meaning wide receiver, halfback, tight end, etc. 87.6 grade, 89 receiving grade. He has 76 receptions for 820 yards and 9 touchdowns. I mean, he is a very complete wide receiver. We're very well aware of what he is capable of doing, and obviously not having Jair is not going to be the greatest thing ever. Last time we saw him, 7 of 7, 56 yards and a touchdown. Not the best, not the worst. It just kind of is what it is. He has scored touchdowns. So he didn't have any touchdowns his first 2 games. Then he had a touchdown in every game up until week 12. He did not have a touchdown week 12 or week 13. Yards are still looking good. Receptions are still good. Has not found the end zone in the last 2 weeks. So need to keep him out again. Not surprisingly, that is the most targeted wide receiver, 91 targets. After that is Jameson Williams with 54 targets. Jameson Williams right now, 630 yards, 4 touchdowns, 73 grade, 74 receiving grade. Not Amon-Ra St. Brown, but a good receiver. A little bit more inconsistent. You got like 70-50, 70-70-50 kind of a deal going on. A little bit more hit or miss, not as much in the end zone. Very volatile, right? Week 3 against Arizona, 9 yards. Followed that up by 80. Week 7, -4. Week 11, 124 and a touchdown. This past week, 28. Volatile guy. And best comp that would make sense for us, obviously, would be Christian Watson. He is a speed guy. He's a deep threat. He's that dude. Number 3 on the list as far as targets is Sam Laporta. 40 targets, 31 receptions, 391 yards, 5 touchdowns. He's second on the team behind Amon-Ra. Just a 69 grade, 73 receiving grade. Not the greatest. Certainly not his best year. Well, not that there's a lot of years to go off of, but it has not been as massively dynamic. But again, I think outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown, it's really the focal point has been the running backs, and they've been fantastic, especially given the offensive line situation that they're with. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery are the guys that are the focal point. And then again, Amon-Ra is kind of the thing on top. And then again, Williams and Laporta are good. They're just not, elite. Speaking of, Jahmyr Gibbs is the next most targeted on the team. 36 targets, 28 receptions, 282 yards, 1 touchdown. His receiving grade is actually not good. It's a 64 receiving grade, an 82 overall grade, though. David Montgomery, just 1 less reception, about the same amount of yards at 277, 1 less touchdown at 0. But he has a 90 receiving grade. So, look, both of them are very capable. Both of them do a good job. Montgomery, though, is presumably the guy that's just a little bit better as far as being a receiving threat, but both of them obviously are guys that the Detroit Lions are going to try to get involved, get them in space and all that kind of stuff. And that's what makes the team hard. I mean, there's so many things to cover, similar to the Green Bay Packers. I mean, what do you focus on? You try to take away Amon-Ra St. Brown. Okay, are you watching Jameson over the top? Are you watching Sam Laporta across the middle? Are you watching the running backs, not only running but in space? It's not easy to keep tabs on everybody. And so rally and tackle going to be really important in this game. After that, wide receiver Tim Patrick, 27 targets, 21 receptions, 306 yards, 70 grade. Khalif Raymond, 16 receptions, 204, 2 touchdowns, 70 grade. After that is not super worth talking about. Looking at the rushing attack, very split backfield. 166 for Montgomery, 163 for Gibbs. Gibbs is the guy that is the more electric one, but he's also the smaller guy that, you got to put him on a pitch count a little bit. So Montgomery's been not only spelling him, but is actually outpacing him by 3 total attempts. But David Montgomery, 166 attempts, 720 yards, 4.3 yards per attempt, 11 touchdowns, 2 fumbles, 85 overall grade, 80 rushing grade, 3.2 yards after contact, 38 missed tackles forced. Jahmyr Gibbs, 166 attempts, 973 yards, 6 yards per attempt. That's stupid. 10 touchdowns, 1 fumble, 3.5 yards after contact, 42 missed tackles forced. So not only do these guys have a great offensive line that's going to give them plenty. I mean, think about that. You look at our running back, Josh Jacobs. He basically, his yards after contact and his yards per attempt are almost identical. He gets maybe 1 yard of cushion. Look at this. Jahmyr Gibbs, 3.5 yards after contact, 6 yards per attempt. What does that mean? He's getting a 2.5 yard cushion, and then he's making 3.5 yards after that. So the offensive line is gifting him 2.5 yards per play before he even gets touched. And then he's also a very elusive back with 42 missed tackles forced and 3.5 yards after contact on average. That sucks. That just sucks. Jared Goff, 25 attempts, 40 yards, 5 fumbles. So there's that. And then you get the offensive line, which is, it's a tale of two sides of an offensive line, I guess. Left tackle, Taylor Decker is going to be out. As I've talked about, the gap is pretty big between he and Dan Skipper. 72 pass blocking grade for Decker, 51 for Skipper, 70 run blocking grade, 50 for Dan Skipper. So you got 20-point difference in both categories. Dan Skipper, very well known for his work against the Houston Texans. He's only responsible for 3 pressures, but still, I like to draw that comparison. He's played quite a bit, actually, especially since the Houston Texans game. He played 65 snaps, 39 pass blocking grade in that game. That was the one where Jared Goff threw 5 interceptions. I think it was 5 interceptions. I think they were all interceptions. I don't know. There's 5 turnovers. And then 16 snaps against Jacksonville, 15 against Indy, and then 69 more snaps against Chicago. He gave up 4 pressures in that game, 62 pass blocking grade, but a 46 run blocking grade. He's not a good football player, and they have to take advantage of this. He has a 94 pass blocking efficiency grade, which is something that, if you don't have like a 99, you suck. At left guard, they have Graham Glasgow, another guy that just is not playing good football. He's 32 years old. He's played some good football in the past. This is his worst year. He has a 59 pass blocking grade, 57 run blocking grade. He's given up 21 pressures, including 2 sacks so far this season. He is primarily a center, although he's played a ton of, I shouldn't say that. He's actually played more right guard than center. He's an interior guy, and he's been moved around quite a bit. Left guard is where he's most unfamiliar of that, so maybe that's part of it. I don't know. But again, the left side of the line is not good. Then you get to something different. Frank Ragnow has always been a very good center. It's worth noting, though, his pass blocking is way down. So his run blocking always has been, always will be. It's the Detroit Lions. It's how they operate. Fantastic. 92 run blocking grade. It's his best of his career. But 64.2 pass blocking is his worst since 2018, which was his rookie year. He's already given up 13 pressures. In 2022, he only gave up 13. He gave up 23 last year, so he's got 10 more to get caught up to that. But that is worth noting. It's tough to stop him as far as run blocking, but there are opportunities here as far as pass blocking. Then you get to the right side of the line where it's just kind of all shut down. Again, run blocking is premier. 88 run blocking grade for Kevin Zeitler. 78 pass blocking grade. Not as good, but still very good pass blocker. He's given up 3 sacks, 4 hits, 4 hurries, 11 total pressures. And of course, right tackle Penei Sewell, very similarly, 77 pass blocking grade, 91 run blocking grade. So the pass blocking across the board, certainly not the best. When you look at Skipper, Glasgow, and Ragnow being anywhere from meh to bad, and then Zeitler and Sewell being good, not elite. I'm sure there are several much better pass blocking offensive lines. Run blocking, though, from Ragnow, Zeitler, and Sewell, they got 2 guys that can't do it, but those 3 are unbelievable as far as just their road grading capabilities. So that's going to be tough to maintain. And again, I think it's going to be critical to make them suffer for pass blocking because at the end of the day, you got to throw. At some point, you got to throw. Now, the hard part is, can you keep them in 3rd and longs as opposed to 3rd and shorts and 3rd and manageables? If they run for 6 on first down every time, you're screwed, basically. But again, I think this is very doable. I don't think that they really didn't run all over the Packers the last time, and they didn't have Dan Skipper at left tackle either. So this is a very doable thing. Not easy, especially for guys like Rashawn Gary and whoever else is going to be sharing that side of the line. It's going to be tough sledding, but you just got to man up and do it. We're going to need the linebackers and the safeties to come in because, head-to-head, it might be tough to stop a guy like Sewell, but you need a guy like, Quay, who's been doing really good in run defense lately, to come downhill and start filling gaps. So it's just pretty good across the board. Left side of the line is bad. Center, right guard, right tackle are very good. Goff is solid. The 2 running backs are very good. Laporta, the tight end, is solid. They have at least 2 good wide receivers, one of them very good. You could argue they have 3 pretty good receivers with Patrick, who has a 70 grade. There's just nothing bad here, except, again, the left side of the line, which is why you just got to play good football, because this isn't, again, even if they're not massively elite, they are a very opportunistic team. They don't make as many mistakes as you do, and if you make a mistake, they're going to make you pay for it. That's it. Like, if you're not run blocking well, they're just going to push you over. They're going to run right through you. If your coverage is a little soft, they're going to find out where you're soft, and they're going to exploit it. And Jared Goff is going to throw an accurate pass to a guy that's not going to drop the ball. Again, I see them as the New England Patriots. They are going to test you. They are a stress test team, stress test offense at the very least. And they're going to find out if there's any leaks in your ship. And if there are, they're going to sink it. But if you can play good football, you can beat this team. Take a break. We'll come back and look at the defense, which is, I think, the biggest concern right now for Lions fans, largely because of the injuries that they have sustained. But it's still got some players that are not going to be the easiest to navigate. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. So, as I mentioned, we went through this yesterday, I think, talking about these guys and the importance of these guys. So Levi Onwuzurike, Josh Paschal, and DJ Reader all out in this game. As I said, with Aiden Hutchinson already being out, you've got, I mean, they did bring in Zadarius Smith, but Aiden Hutchinson and Josh Paschal were the top 2 guys. And now the top 2 guys are out. So now you've got Zadarius Smith, and I'm not exactly sure who. Al-Qadim Muhammad played a lot of snaps last week, so maybe that's going to be the duo. Otherwise, you got Trevor Nowatzki, a guy I've never heard of until this moment. He is 6'3", 235, by the way. But, Paschal, for whatever it's worth, was a pretty decent run defender. And I think the concern now is they know that they're going up against a physical run offense. And so now you don't have Aiden Hutchinson. You don't have Paschal. These are your 2 top guys, and they're both really good against the run. You have Zadarius Smith. He's a good pass rusher. He really is. 82 pass rush grade, 17 pressures on 94 attempts. He is fantastic. Run defense, though, 61 run defense grade, 26 tackling grade. He's one of the worst tacklers right now on this team. Al-Qadim Muhammad. Again, pass rush, not bad. 13 pressures on 95 attempts is fine, but he has a 44 run defense grade. Trevor Nowatzki, 11 pressures, 114 attempts. That's perfectly fine. He has a 53 run defense grade. The run defense is not really there on the edge. Then you look at the defensive tackles. Alim McNeil is their top dog. He is still going to be there, and a lot is going to be expected of him. His pass rush is sub 10%, even though he grades out very well. He's got a 63 run defense grade, 66 tackling. It's not the greatest. It's not the worst. They absolutely need him to step up. Biggest reason, well, DT2 is Levi Onwuzurike. He is not going to be playing. Defensive tackle number 3 is DJ Reader. He is not going to be playing. Next up, so this is going to be the new defensive tackle 2, is Mekhi Wingo, I believe. He has a 46 run defense grade. That's terrible. After that, you've got, and I don't even know, Patrick O'Connor did play 4 snaps in this past game, so presumably you'll see a little bit of him. Right now he has a 50 run defense grade, 48 pass rush, 3 pressures on 43 attempts. Patrick O'Connor, not a super good football player. The guy that would be next is Kyle Pecco. He is on IR, I believe. Pico, Pecco, whatever. So you've got your top, 5 or 6? You got McNeil, you've got Reader, you got Onwuzurike, Wingo, Pecco, and O'Connor. Of that group, Onwuzurike, Reader, and Pecco are out. So you've got your 3 guys, Alim McNeil, Mekhi Wingo, and Patrick O'Connor. And that's assuming you're only going to have a 3-man rotation, which seems unlikely. After that, you've got 2 guys down here, Chris Smith and Broderick Martin. Chris Smith was waived today. They did that to create space for so they could activate guys like Jamison Williams or whatever. But that's one less guy, and so we're left with Broderick Martin. He did play last week. He played 2 snaps. You're going to be seeing more of him. Broderick Martin was a third-round pick in 2023. He's played 30 total snaps for the Detroit Lions. I mean, they are absolutely. I mean, that's I believe number 4. That's it. I don't know who else they have. I don't know who's getting called up. I don't know what's going on, but I believe those are your 4 guys. This is a decimated defensive front. That doesn't even. I mean, let me just read off their injured reserve right now. Alex Anzalone, linebacker. David Bada, defensive end. Derek Barnes, thought he was a linebacker, but it says defensive end. John Kaminsky, Marcus Davenport, Aiden Hutchinson, Nate Lynn, Kyle Pecco, Jalen Reeves-Maben, Malcolm Rodriguez, and Mekhi Wingo. Wait, did I say Mekhi Wingo was going to be playing? Is that even one less? When did Mekhi Wingo go on IR? Oh, my Lord. He sustained a season-ending knee injury on Thanksgiving game against Chicago Bears, so they don't have him either. Okay, hold on. Give me a second here. Chris Smith was waived. Broderick Martin is playing, who's played 30 snaps total. He's played 2 this season. Alim McNeil is playing. Onwuzurike is out. Patrick O'Connor is playing, so that's 3. Pecco is on IR. Reeder is out. And that's it. So they got 3 guys. Looks like they added Jonah Williams to the defensive line. We've actually seen him already this year. He played 1 snap against Green Bay, had a 35 grade. He's currently at what is he for the season? A 39 PFF grade, 34 run defense. It's a disaster. I don't know what you expect from 39-year-old Jonah Williams, a 2020 undrafted free agent. Who has played for the Rams for a while. Just a pretty bad football player. The other name that's come in, I don't know who's going to end up playing out of this pile of whatever, is Miles Adams, 2020 undrafted free agent. So far this year, he played 3 snaps for Seattle before presumably getting cut. 40 PFF grade, 38 run defense grade, 1 pressure on 20 attempts. So, look, this has the potential to be the worst defensive line the Packers have seen all year. Again, the top 2 pass rushers have pass rush chops, and Alim McNeil is not terrible. But this is terrible. And remember, I listed off a bunch of linebackers as well when I went through IR. So Jack Campbell is the guy that they drafted. He's a good linebacker. The guy they drafted a couple years ago, first round, Jack Campbell. 76th grade, he's doing a solid job. I know we're jumping a little bit, but I just want to be clear what I'm talking about here. Jalen Reeves-Maben is a linebacker. He played 111 snaps. He's on IR. Alex Anzalone has played, still to this day, the second most snaps for the team. He's on IR. Malcolm Rodriguez has played the 3rd most snaps at linebacker. Pretty solid grade at 74. He's on IR. So they do have Quan Alexander. I mentioned that, I think, yesterday. Quan is going to presumably come in. But they've got 1 linebacker that has been the starter this whole season. So, I mean, they have what? Like 1 defensive tackle in McNeil and 1 linebacker in Campbell as far as their defensive front that have just like the guys that have been there for a while. Al-Qadim Muhammad was a Bear last year, wasn't he? Was that 2 years ago? I don't know. That's rough, man. This is a patchwork defensive line. Now, getting to the defensive backs here, we'll start with cornerback. Terrion Arnold has played the most snaps at corner so far this season. He is currently not doing his absolute best, which actually might not even be true. I don't know. He's a rookie. Maybe this is as good as it gets, but he is really bad so far this year. 49.5 PFF grade, 49 coverage grade. He has given up 39 receptions for 452 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 5 pass breakups on the season. Tackling grade is decent, 57 run defense grade. But again, the 49 coverage is just really, really not very good. It's been a tough first year so far for Terrion Arnold. His best game this entire year came against Green Bay, actually. It was a 67 grade overall, and it was basically entirely run defense. 77 run defense grade, it was his best of the year. 79.7 tackling grade, it was his second best of the year. His coverage grade, though, was a 63.6. He was targeted 6 times, 5 receptions, 31 yards against him. The second corner is Carlton Davis. Carlton Davis does have a better grade overall, wildly inconsistent, though, and usually not very good. I don't know how the defense is doing so good. Can the safeties be that important to this defense? Carlton Davis has a 73 grade, 72 coverage grade. That seems solid. But if you look at his grades, just rounding to the tens places, 60, 50, 60, 50, 80, 40, 60, 70, 90, 50, 60. He's got 3 good games, and they're very good games. 88 against Dallas, 78 against Green Bay, 91 against Houston. He doesn't have a single other good game outside of that. And that goes for coverage as well. Those are the same 3 games in coverage. 90, 83, and 91, basically. Otherwise, 63, 51, 53, 61, 38, 61, 56, and then 70, I guess, against Indy is decent enough. 39 receptions, 463 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, 5 pass breakups. So unless Carlton Davis has one of his just lights out games, and again, one of them was against Green Bay, one of his 3 total games, he's just not been very good this year. Then you got their slot corner, Amik Robertson. Amik has a 55 PFF grade and a 53 coverage grade. Again, just not good. I don't know what else to say. 35 receptions, 433 yards, 2 touchdowns given up, 0 interceptions, 3 pass breakups, 95 passer rating when targeted. I mean, aside from Zadarius Smith, I don't think we've listed a single person that scares me, including a Lim McNeil. I just, it's what it is. The entire defensive line, defensive interior, exterior, the linebackers. Campbell's a good linebacker, but the linebackers, corners, meh to bad. But that's when you get to the best safety duo in football, which, again, you wouldn't think safeties would matter that much, but it's hard to look at the defense and the lack of talent and then the success that they've had and come away with any other distinction other than these safeties are very important. Kirby Joseph right now, 91 PFF grade, 84 run defense, 82 tackling, and a 91 coverage grade. He's only given up 1 touchdown, has 7 interceptions, 2 pass breakups, 59.8 passer rating when targeted. He has absolutely exploded as a 3rd-round pick. His first year had a 64 grade. Last year was a 56, right now 91. I don't know what the heck happened. It's not really fluky. He's only had 2 kind of down games, and by down I mean 59, which is dead average. He's been unbelievably consistent. 70, 70, 80, 70, 80, 60, 80, 80, 70, 90, 70, 60. It's just flawlessly perfect. Brian Branch, not as much. Brian Branch, 85 PFF grade, 90 run defense, 49 tackling, 91 pass rush, and 80 coverage. That sounds fantastic. If you look at since week 8, though, 50, 50, 80, 60, 50, 50. His coverage grades 40, 60, 70, 50, 50, 50. He's had 1 good game after Minnesota. So he was dominant prior to. He missed a couple games. Week 1 wasn't great, but it was 80, 70, 90, 90. That's really inflated his grade because over that 4-game stretch, and it wasn't even a 4-game, it was 4 games, but not 4 weeks. Over that 4-game stretch, just dominant. 3 of those 4 in particular. But again, since then, 50, 50, 80, 60, 50, 50. It has not been super great. 45 targets, 25 receptions, 233 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 picks, 8 pass breakups. In 2 of those games that were very pick dependent, his 93 game against Dallas, he had 2 interceptions. 93 against Minnesota, he had an interception. He has not had 1 interception since. So it's been since week 7, he doesn't have any interceptions. He had a 2 pass breakup game against Houston. But aside from that, that's the only pass breakup he's had since that Minnesota game. So it's been pretty quiet. Basically, since after week 7, It's 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions, 2 pass breakups. So we will see. Again, if he has one of his just dominant games, which is less likely than Davis, not much less, but I would say less because it's been almost all bad from him since week 7. I don't know. I don't know what to say. The offense is certainly scary. The defense less so. When you look at the statistics, the defense is very scary. When you look at the players, I cannot fathom why the Packers would not be able to move the ball. They should be able to run at will. Passing might be a little bit more difficult, but Terry and Arnold is bad. They've got 1 linebacker remaining, aside from Quan, and he's really just a very solid run defender. The coverage is You got to watch out for the roving safeties, but we have plenty of options to throw to. Somebody should be able to get open. So, I mean, if you were to ask me what is the biggest mismatch, just in broad terms, offense, defense, the biggest mismatch, in my opinion, in this game is the Packers' offense against the Lions' defense. It's the biggest mismatch. But we got to see. You got to put pen to paper because, again, they've been, granted, they continue to have the injuries. They lost another defensive tackle just after this past week that went down, and they got a bunch of guys they're going to plug in, and maybe those guys will be good. I don't know, but it would be a unbelievably impressive performance from the Detroit Lions, and especially the defensive coordinator, if these guys with 3, 4, 5 players that haven't been Detroit Lions just 2-3 weeks ago, stepping up and taking over this defense, with Za'Darius and everybody else, that even guys that had been on the team that just weren't playing because they were so far down the depth chart. O'Connor and I don't know which linebackers are going to be stepping up, if it's David Long Jr., who's just bad, or if it's Turner. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to go because, again, they just got Quan Alexander. I don't know what the plan is. But you need to get in there. You need to punch that defense right in the mouth. That's bottom line. Because if you don't, they're probably going to do it to us. Anyways, I'm going to leave you guys with that. Got nothing else. You guys have a good rest of your day. I will talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.